Lost Art with Andrew Cox, retired Master Gunnery Sergeant. thelostart.podbean.com. Get some merchandise and help support the podcast in getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. Now on all major podcast platforms. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be a guest, tell your veteran story, discuss your veteran business or organization. Email The Lost Art with Andrew Cox at gmail.com. Andrew Cox, a Till Valhalla Project Ambassador. See the project story at tillvalhallaproject.com. Thanks for tuning in. Please enjoy the podcast that's giving a voice to our veterans. The Lost Art with Andrew Cox.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast, that podcast giving a voice to our veterans. I'm your host, Andrew Cox, and today we're going to have a My Veteran Story. But before we get into the episode, are you enjoying the podcast? Make sure you go to the website. That's the lostart.podbean.com. Go check it out. See what we got going on there. There is that merchandise tab. If you want to help support us and getting our veteran voices out for all to hear, go there and get you some cool merchandise. Get you a hat, get you a shirt, get you something, a mug. I don't know, whatever it is you want to get. But get something cool and help support us. Also want to give a shout out to the Till Valhalla Project for allowing me to be an ambassador for that great organization. If you don't know anything about them, go to their website. That's tillvalhallaproject.com. Go check them out, see what they're all about. And if there's any way you can support them, please do so.
Matt Boatwright shows up, puts me to the Leadership Grinder School 101. Yeah. I'm getting out of the Corps. I'm like, it's done. I tried to lap move to Marine Special Operations for K9. I've been doing K9 work at that time for 12 years or something like that. And they asked for me by name to be the trainer for the K9 team.
Oh, wow.
And the day that I submitted my package, the commandant released a white letter email to all Marines, basically saying that we had too many staff NCOs and officers in MARSOC already, and they could not accept any more lap moves into MARSOC for staff NCOs or officers. I was a staff sergeant at that time of 5 months or something like that. And I was just heartbroken. At that point, I was like, I'm just going to get out. I'll go get out, go work for a police department was what my plan was, and be a K9 officer. So anyway, Matt Boatwright calls me in about 3 weeks before my EAS to get out of the Marine Corps. And he's like, I know why you're getting out. And I understand how hard this tour has been. But you told me that you love these Marines. And you told me that you love the Corps. But now you're leaving. And all of them are going to be left with possibly the same level of leadership that got you to leave. Instead of you becoming the leader that you wanted. So I got you a school seat at the senior musicians course. It starts in a few weeks. I want an answer by tomorrow morning. And I laughed. I literally went, Master Guns, calm it down. I'm EASing in 3 weeks. You know what I mean? He's like, I don't want to hear it. Come back tomorrow. All I need is a yes or no. Don't explain your answer. Just yes or no. You know how he is.
Yeah.
Business. I don't need your justifications. Just yes or no. I go home. I'm driving. I'm like, it's freaking mine, you know? And all night, I'm like, he's right. You know, he's right.
Yeah.
I hated him. I walked in the next morning and I said, I have one question and then I'll give you an answer. And I said, even if I say yes, how the hell are we going to do a re-enlistment in 3 weeks? Household goods shipments, blah, 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 you know, all the things. And he's like, that's laughable that you think I would not have already taken care of all that. The career planner already has your package. The CG,
it's ready.
The CG already endorsed it. You just got to go sign it. And Headquarters Marine Corps already knows you have a school seat. Yes or no? Just like that. And I'm like, in that moment, you know, that's one of those moments in life where sometimes you have to leap. And you are jumping off a cliff and you have no idea what that landing looks like.
Yeah.
But you just have to leap or not. And I love that he didn't give me an opportunity to discuss.
Yeah.
Because I probably could have talked myself out of it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I just said, I'm going to commit right now to be the leader that I didn't have.
Yeah.
I'm going to go after it. You know, the guy that came to Camp Lejeune on fire for the Marine Corps and what we do and how valuable I think it is, that's the guy I'm going to bring back, but better.
Yeah.
Because now I'm going to go to our highest level training and I'm going to implement that with more wisdom.
Right.
So I said yes. Left the camp back to the schoolhouse and went through the senior musicians course from there. I graduated as the top Marine in my class versus the lowest scoring Marine from the ULC. I was literally the worst in the ULC, and then I was the highest in the SMC.
Very nice.
Because I came there with a different mentality, a different humility. I had gone through some severe stuff that made me think differently.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that earlier is that next level, right? That you think you've gone through the worst when really you haven't,
and just getting started.
Yeah. So you're at a new level of learning.
Yeah.
We'll say that.
Yeah. So I leave the senior musicians course, did great, go to Miramar to work under Andres Navarro, who checked in the exact same week as me, and I know without a doubt that God, that was prophetic. That was he and I shipped out of the exact same recruiting substation.
No kidding.
RSS Hollywood, Florida.
Yeah.
And we were shipped 3 months apart.
Wow.
It was prophetic. He was checking in as Warrant Officer 1 out of TBS, and I was checking in as Staff Sergeant graduating the Senior Musicians course.
Yeah.
One of his key, staff sergeants. And that tour was truly the turning point. Maybe the turning point was really saying yes to go into the Senior Musicians course. But that tour was where I said, I need to commit to a vision of something greater. My vision was to become a Master Gunnery Sergeant, to be just like Matthew Boatwright, and make sure these Marines are taken care of and they're thinking the right way.
Yeah.
I met Andres Navarro, and that plan went to crap in a blink of an eye, because he literally asked me just a couple questions, and all of a sudden I was looking at life differently. He put me on a path he gave me a lot of responsibilities, more than I could handle. Another leader who said, you think you're good. I'm going to show you you're not quite as good as you think you are, and we're going to humble you a little bit. And when you're there, then I'll be able to start working, to grow you. And I needed it, and I was good. And he put me on a path, and he said, look, if you are good enough, if you pass the test, I will personally write you a letter for band officer. Yeah. And one thing I was always I always wanted a challenge, and I was arrogant about challenges because I hadn't met challenges yet that I couldn't overcome. Right. Yeah. Until him. And I'll say to some degree, Matt Boatwright, I didn't look at Matt Boatwright as challenging me. That was a task, and I was failing at it. Yeah. But Andres challenged who I was. He said, if you're good enough, I'll write you a letter. So it was you that he was challenging, not the tasks. Yeah. And he gave me an assignment, and I bombed it. He assigned me to be the platoon sergeant, enlisted conductor, staff arranger, and planner for concerts the day I came back from my baby leave, 10 days baby leave. My first child is born. Yeah. I'm home for 10 days. I walk into the building, and all of a sudden I have every critical billet you can think of. And I drowned. Within 30 days. I walked into his office like pretty much crying. Yeah. I was like, I can't do it. I failed you, And he just said, all right, sit down. Let's take some of these things off your plate. I want you to focus now all your efforts in these directions. And then, of course, I started doing better because I had less on the plate. My tour with him was cut short because he did such a great job of growing me that I was then selected to become an enlisted conductor, officially billeted. And in the same week that I was told I was officially an enlisted conductor was the same week they said, you're leaving a month from now to recruiter school. Oh, nice. December of 2014, I find out that I'm finally achieved the thing I've been working on for like 12 years or 10 years. And now you don't get to do it. You're going to go recruit, I was so brokenhearted. But the opportunity was great because I got to go be the 12th Marine Corps District musician, technical assistant, recruiter. And I knew that was somewhat of a stepping stone in the right direction if I wanted to be a band officer, because many band officers have gone down that road.
Yeah, for sure.
So I went there, did my tour in recruiting for 2 years, from 2015 to 2017, and I left. I was selected to become an officer in 2016, and I left the officer school January of 2017. And then after that, went back to Miramar, where I was with Andres, to be the OIC for the 3rd Mall Band.
So you spent how many years on recruiting?
I did 2 years as a staff sergeant with Navarro at Miramar.
Yeah.
Short toured that, went on recruiting. 2 years, selected to become an officer on my 2nd year of recruiting, and that short toured me there. By the grace of God, I met the exact criteria to earn the recruiting ribbon in terms of months, because it literally was down to the final month of my time. But I met the criteria, and the general at 12th Marine Corps District at the time was General Bierman, who is now a 3-star general, and he had some knowledge of my successes as a recruiter. Right. My first year, I recruited about half of the MEOP mission alone, just by myself.
Oh, wow.
So I basically took a lot of load off the district because I was finding them myself via social media. I was reaching out to universities, and then I would do Skype phone calls and all these things. And then I would basically get everything set up. And then I would call a recruiter and say, don't screw this up. It's done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've already auditioned them. I've already pre-screened them. I've done it all. All you got to do is go to MEPS.
Yeah.
Don't mess around. Yeah. Don't mess around and try to talk about, hey, have you ever thought about water treatment facilities? How about the reserves? Don't mess around. Right. So I had a mission of 24 every year that I was on recruiting, which is that's the biggest that we had across the MCRA.
Oh, wow.
For each district. I would usually find between 12 and 14 by myself. Yeah. So that means the rest of the district only had to find one per RS. So roughly. So I was successful, and I brought in some amazing talent that's still in the Corps today. So proud of those people who are out there crushing it. And then TBS in 2017. And then from there, I checked into Miramar in July of 2017, to step right into a concert in days for the 4th of July. 10,000 people at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, and I hadn't touched a baton in 3 years. That was a hell of a welcome to officer life, but I was set up for success. I had Vic Ney, who was my enlisted conductor, and also MTA with me previously, and he had already done the whole show, ready to go. All I had to do was say what I wanted to conduct, if anything. If I wanted to just watch, I could have done that. I couldn't do that by principle. I felt that we lead from the front. I should get on the podium for some degree, but Vic could have done that whole concert by himself. So I knew then I was set up for success with a good team. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. So your experience when you went to the officer training, what was that like? Because it's completely different, than especially boot camp. But what was that experience like?
It was great. It's an infantry-minded course. It's obviously has nothing to do with music, and it's teaching you to be a platoon commander of sorts.
Right.
But the lessons I learned were 2-part. One, the course, and like any course, there's stuff that you're like, why? Why are we doing this? But there's other stuff that's super valuable. But so that was the course side of things. I learned a lot about officership. I had a great captain who we rebelled against him, and all of the warrant officers rebelled because they're like 12 to 18 year staff NCOs to become officers, and now you're dealing with a 6-year captain. And a lot of times there's this thing, right? So we rebelled, but he was a great captain. Now he's a major, and I think he's here on Camp Lejeune now. And I sat down with him one day and I said, look, here's what's happened. Let me just be honest with you. These warrant officers and chief warrant officer 2, gunners, these people have a lot of experience. And they don't want to feel like they're being treated like a first lieutenant or second lieutenant who never went to boot camp. Some of these are hardened combat veterans.
Oh yeah.
My roommate was an amazing guy named, he was a gunner, an infantry gunner, AJ Paschuti, sniper. Just amazing guy. And you would never look at him and assume anything.
Right.
He could fit in my giant pack, honestly.
Yeah.
But he is a hero, truly. And I have it's one of the toughest freaking guys I've ever met in my life. His shoulder was dislocated the whole time. I didn't know it until at the end of the course. Meanwhile, I dislocated my shoulder the first month, our first field exercise, and I was in a sling for 3 months. And then I had to make up all of the physical events in the final 2 months.
Oh, wow.
Which was brutal.
Yeah.
AJ, his shoulder was out the whole course. He had no cartilage left, and no one knew it until I spotted him on his rack, and I could see the shoulder. And I said, AJ, you going to fix that? And he looks at it and he goes, pops it back in, biting down in pain. And then he looks at me. He goes, if you tell anyone, I'll do it. Like, that's the kind of,
Yeah.
So I learned a lot by the men and women that I got to share time with, learning about their MOSs, just like all schools, right? We get to share experiences. But officership definitely is something that needs to be talked about more. We need to stop talking to our best and brightest enlisted Marines and telling them that becoming an officer is the natural progression. If you're elite enlisted, the natural progression is to become an officer. That's false. We need elite senior enlisted. And more importantly, we need to talk about the role of an enlisted Marine and an officer. The biggest issue I find is that we can talk about that and fix that conversation, but we are not going to be able to fix the not verbal communication that the Marine Corps gives. What I mean by that is, how much does a captain make? And then how much does a master guns make?
Yeah.
Now, a master guns is going to probably make a little more than a captain, but like not by a lot.
Right.
But to me, I'm not trying to discredit a captain, but to me, our first sergeants, master sergeants, master gunnery sergeants, and sergeant majors, those are your CEOs, your chief executive officers, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They make everything go. They are the lead implementers of the vision and the strategies and the policies. And if we don't start thinking about that, I fear that what I witnessed it firsthand, not just at officer school, but throughout my career. I fear that our elite performing enlisted young sergeants, staff sergeants, they're going to keep applying for these warrant officer or MECEP fully commissioned programs, thinking that because they're at the top tier of enlisted, that they fit the right role for officers, because officers are better. And the problem is we're not talking about what the role of an officer versus an enlisted is. If you are a person that by nature loves being given a plan and making that plan come to life, and you're excellent at that, you should never transition to become an officer, in my opinion. But if you're a person who gets a plan given to them and you look at that plan and your brain just immediately goes into how to make that plan magnificently better because you're a vision-oriented person, that's the kind of role and nature that is, I think, more suitable in the officer community, because the job requires intent. If an officer isn't giving intent based off of vision and strategy, then the enlisted have nothing to implement.
Right.
And I hate that we do that. I've seen so many people go, I made a big mistake. I made a big mistake. I should have never become an officer. And they were outstanding sergeants, staff sergeants, gunnery sergeants who would have made immaculate partners to a colonel or chief warrant officer or whatever. But unfortunately, once you make that decision, you're not going back.
Yeah, very
as much
true.
as people
very true.
spread the rumor that you could revert or something. It's not.
So,
anyway, that was my experience at TBS. It was a great experience.
To talk a little bit about what you're saying and what I saw was the best units have an officer that understands their role and a senior enlisted that understands their role, and they work well together.
Well, they have to be equal. That's the thing. And I think we can say that fine. But our problem is we have these things and we view them vertically. We are trained that way. E1, E2, E3, E4. And so as you raise that number, you raise your value. And the hardest thing for me is to look at my PFC, my Lance Corporals, and go, do you understand that you are as valuable as me?
Mm-hmm.
As a CWO3, you are as valuable as me.
Right.
But they don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, how could that be? You get paid more. I salute you.
Yeah.
They don't understand. And yeah, I just think we have to view, I always view my senior enlisted, you and I got to work together. I view my senior enlisted as my partner. They're my equal.
Yeah.
The only difference between a civilian organization and a military organization when it comes to the CEO and the head of the company, which Simon Sinek, he calls it CVO, Chief Vision Officer. That's your Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
He's not talking logistics, payroll, manufacturing. He's talking vision. Right. So he's your CVO, but the CEO makes sure the product actually makes it in the hands of the customer.
Yeah.
And if you don't have those two people equal, there's a big problem. However, the military is unique in this aspect because in the civilian world, often actually the person subordinate is the one that gets fired. Yeah. And the person above is the one who like sticks around and they replace, they don't get the burden.
Right.
They often blame someone else. In the military,
it's almost the opposite.
It is the opposite. Yeah. And there's a reason. You and I, when we were working together as an officer and senior enlisted, you and I were equally responsible for everything that happened, with the 3rd Mob Band.
Right.
But we were not equally accountable.
Correct. Yeah.
And that is the distinguishing difference between an officer and an enlisted, that if you want to create a hierarchy, that's the only place to do it. Because if things break, nobody should be looking at you more than they look at me. I should have the ultimate accountability for when things go wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And when things go right, I should be showing everyone how great my Marines are, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But that's really the conversation that the Marine Corps needs to be having much more. How do we get that message out? Hell, if I know, maybe I need to write a letter to the comment. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
But,
there you go.
Who knows?
I learned very quickly the responsibility aspect, because I'll be honest, as a senior enlisted, it's very easy to walk into somebody's office and say, this is what we should do. This. And then whenever I got the opportunity to be the acting OIC, and of course I had Van, right? He came in as a senior.
He's real easy to work with, though.
Oh yeah, yeah, he is.
He is actually, but
he's a lot like me. But he would come in doing the same things I would do as a bandmaster, and he'd be like, "Oh, this and this, that," and I'm like, "Okay, that's good. But let's think about this for a second, because it fell on me."
That's
and
right.
I'm like, man, before I make that decision, let me really think about it, because it is different, and I could see that being the biggest difference between the two. And you got to have both, right? You got to have that senior enlisted come in and say, hey, look, and just blurt it out, whatever it is. But then you got to have the officer to go, okay, that's all fine and dandy, but what really is the best way forward? And they have to look at it in a different light.
Absolutely. I mean, Master Guns Davis, my partner now, he walked in here the day before the birthday ball.
Yeah.
And said, I hate to do this right now, but I really think you need to consider this. And I really want to suggest you do it this way.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and was like, are you crazy? Like now? The day before? And then then we took a step back, really talked it out. And it wasn't a contentious conversation, but it was like, all right, if we go down that road, here's what I need to happen in order for me to say yes. Because ultimately I'm accountable.
Yeah.
And so he took that. He said, Roger that. Let me pull the staff together. Let's talk about it. We'll come back to you with something. He left. Staff came to my office like a freaking mob and said, here's what we think. And I said, actually, I think that'll work.
Yeah.
Adjust one tiny thing. Let's roll.
Yeah.
And it was great because that is exactly what has to happen when something could go wrong. And as a team, we ensure the best outcome.
Yeah.
If we leave it to just one person to be responsible, you're unlikely to get the best results because we're all human and fallible. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right. Yeah, we got sidetracked a little bit. That's okay.
Yeah.
So you spent your time at 3rd Mall. That was your first officer
the teeth
experience.
Cutting, the teeth cutting. And it only ended with a pandemic, so no big deal.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you were there during the pandemic, which, was always fun and exciting because the
the challenges of what does a band do
with
and
no
how do
public
they
performances.
operate, which I think your vision on that was the right move, right? As we look into the digital age and all I mean, heck, we're doing it right now, right?
That's right. Yeah.
But you look at all that stuff and your way and vision of putting the teams together to make all that happen, and coming up with the ideas and all that, although some of those ideas may have gone a little overboard.
100%. It was COVID. Things happened.
Oh yeah.
And we learned from them. You know.
Yeah. Someday I will post a video.
Just wait till after 2027 when I'm retired.
Yeah. We'll post a video about a guy doing a rap.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be good.
It was great though.
It was good, man. People loved it. People loved it.
The product was excellent.
Record it and appreciate the phone calls, but that's all good. That's all good.
Lesson learned.
But yeah, so I think that what you were doing there was fantastic, and it really set a stage for the entire Ock field in a direction that we needed to go. So good vision on your part for being able to do that.
Yeah, I don't want to take credit for that vision. That vision was inspired when I was in MTA back in 2015, and it was inspired by Colonel Larry Lang of the Air Force Band. He was the premier band director.
Yeah,
he retired, but I got to meet him right before, in fact, December before I went to officer school.
Oh wow!
And he gave me his coin. We sat down and spoke for way too long. For his position, he should have not given me that much time a day. But I saw a video in 2015 from a group called Max Impact that he coined. Max Impact. It was the premier popular music group, and they had hired a woman vocalist who had competed in American Idol, almost won it.
Oh wow!
And so she became the vocalist for this popular music group, and it was from the premier band in DC. And they did a music video called American Airmen. See, Air Force, I don't hate everything. I'd say I give you guys the credit in this regard. American Airmen, and I saw this video, and I thought to myself, this is one of the best musical products I've seen from a military band because of one particular reason. It would reach the common man. As military musicians today, I think we reach the educational community. Great. We reach, universities and musical astute people, but the common man.
Yeah. I think it's still recording. Yeah, we're still good.
The common person doesn't necessarily relate to John Philip Sousa. There's room for us to educate them about it and to give them a love for Sousa and for other traditional forms of music. But we have to figure a way to reach the normal, everyday Joe person who is the pillar of American, blood.
Yeah.
And that video, when I watched it, I said, this is the future. He's there. He's ahead. And I said, if I'm ever in that position, this is 2 years before I was an officer and a year before I ever got selected.
Right.
I said, if I am ever in that position, I am going to find a way to record, to produce videography that touches the soul and that reaches more people for less money.
Yeah.
Because that was the driving factor for me is, well, if they're cutting bands, dollars and cents are part of that. And then how much value is there to the bands? Right. Well, if I can increase my value by reaching more people, then my foolish hope is that I could show tangibly that we are worth more than you're actually spending.
Yeah.
And in a digital age where you can actually record metrics and show what countries your videos are being and what demographics, and it was a really tangible thing. And so in 2017, when I took over at Miramar, I sent a whole bunch of my people over to Comstrat, communication strategy, formerly public affairs, to learn videography, post-production videography.
Yeah.
How do we shoot pictures the right way? Camera settings, all this stuff. They spent like 80 something hours. And then we came back and we started small. I want to shoot a 30-second video. I want to have a splash that we put on the front of all of our videos. So we got to
Mhm.
develop what that looks like. What's the audio? How are we going to record it?
Yeah.
So we just built little by little. And then by the time you showed up,
Oh, it was running.
our skills were so developed that the Comstrat team for Third Mall would call us and say, can you cover down on something?
Yeah.
And it's like, holy crap, we're helping the big picture of things. The general viewed us as an arm, an extension to his Comstrat team. And I'm seeing the benefits of that even today. Here at Second Marine Division, I have a wonderful relationship with the Comstrat team. They trust us to message appropriately. We're working on a project right now that I'm freaking so ecstatic for February of 2025 for the division anniversary.
Oh, nice.
And I'm telling you right now, I'll let you listen to it before you leave today.
All right.
This is going to rock people's socks, and I'm so excited about it. So, it was a vision that I started a long time ago, and it led to some amazing things. I left Miramar and went to Paris Island, and then that vision continued on, and then we started original music, and then we got an Emmy nomination.
Yeah.
And I was like, I could have never seen that result from a simple idea, almost 10 years prior.
Right.
So, yeah.
And now you look across at the entire Rockville.
It's just a standard.
Yeah. And that is the norm.
Yeah.
So
I think we are finding the right balances now too.
Yeah.
When
agreed.
I started this, it was like too much.
Yeah.
And nobody can do it. And so of course nobody wanted to buy in on that. But now we're finding that, we don't have to do so much. We can balance it and do just a few things throughout the year.
Yeah.
And we have to balance it with our current operations and make sure that it's not becoming the priority. So I think all of those things are really good, and we worked through them through COVID, and everybody experimented.
Yeah.
And now we have some good lessons learned that we're. So
yeah, sure. And then so you spent your time at Paris Island, and kind of doing the same type of stuff with the digital type thing.
Yeah, I did, but I took it in a completely different direction than Miramar. Miramar was the learning phase for me. And everything was cover songs, essentially. And at that time, it wasn't a big deal. It was no problem. But as more and more people started to do it, legalities and things started to come into the picture. And I said, well, how do I continue to do this but not have the issues of legalities?
Yeah.
And the answer became very clear. I need original music. I need licenses from people if I'm going to do an effort. And so I really, really decided at that time to dive deep into writing our own music, reaching out way in advance and planning way in advance to get licenses for certain things. I got to work with Frank Kelly, do his folk songs. And we did that as a really nice spring recording project with a message to the American people. We were still in COVID at that time. This was in 2021. So we were still in the COVID stuff, but we were getting ready to come out of it. And so we found ways, but the right way.
Yeah.
And less often. So, it was good. That tour to me actually was less about that stuff and much more about taking what is the norm and seeing if you can make it better. The depot is rich in tradition. They do not like changing things.
That is a true statement.
Red tape, don't cut it, and when I showed up, I was like, man, we could do so much more for this command, for the recruiting mission, for so many other things. And I, me well, I walked in and I said, I'm not going to wait. We're going 100 miles an hour. And it wasn't received great at first.
Yeah.
I had a lot of friction. Had to find the right balance to show the command, give me a chance. Let me show you what this could do for you.
Right.
I had a great chief of staff, and that was probably my saving grace because he would give me the rope. But throughout the rest of the command, it was met with nothing but resistance.
Yeah.
Because we do things a certain way at the beginning. But after my first 6 months, I think everyone said, this is great. Let's let him do the things. And, after that tour was phenomenal. I loved the Marines that I got to work with there. They were so passionate about what we were doing. They worked so hard. There were times where they were just freaking spent, and I had to pulled back. It we had tons of them re-enlisting, and now they're at other bands and they're still doing great things. I'm just really proud of that tour. And yeah, now we're here, Camp Lejeune, kind of, this is my last stop before retirement. I asked to come here while I was on quarantine in 2020 before I met the Paris Island band.
Oh, really?
Like, I checked into Paris Island, went on quarantine, called Stephanie Wire and said, send me to Camp Lejeune in 2023.
Yeah.
And I can only say that God would give me that kind of thought, because frankly, I was planning to do 30 years.
Yeah.
But now looking at it and saying that I'm retiring here, knowing that I get to rewrite my previous experience here and be the leader I wanted to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to see the things that we're doing here, which are already far above what I came in the door thinking we could accomplish in this window. It's only been 1 year, but man, these you got to see on Saturday. These Marines are incredible, and I got new Marines that just got here that are freaking on fire. And I can see the next 2 years before I retire just being a thrill, a blessing, sad departure for me to have to leave. So yeah.
But yeah, speaking of the birthday ball, you guys hosted. It was like 400 some odd.
It's about individuals. I think we were shy of 400, but it was.
It was close.
What a family gathering that was.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah.
And then your guys' performance that you guys put together, with the lights and the rock band, and then the traditional music or musicians being able to be a part of that as well with the dancing. You guys did a fantastic job, and it's something that you don't think of when you see a Marine band marching down the road and stuff like that. It's not what you think of.
Yeah.
But it turned out great. Turned out fantastic. The entire crowd was enthusiastic. No, it was a good time, good experience.
I'm still on a high.
Yeah.
I told my team this morning, we had a meeting for the holiday season, because we've been waiting till today to kind of begin really implementing some of the initial planning phases of the holidays. But I told them this morning, I said, I don't know how we're going to get over this hangover. Yeah. And I don't mean alcohol. I mean like a Super Bowl win.
Yeah.
Normally for me, it's easy. Normally we do the big event after months of prep, and the very next day I wake up and I'm like, that was cool. Moving on.
Yeah.
I'm getting messages every 5 seconds on Facebook Messenger and text messages, people I don't even have their numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm just like so proud of these Marines. They worked freaking incredibly hard. And it showed. Frankly, I think it's easy to do the music side of things. But when you are doing the pre-ceremony show like we did, then only to transition in an 8-minute window, putting swords on, grabbing the national colors, getting the cake, and putting on a ceremony that, in my opinion, may be biased, but I feel like I'm pretty fair. I saw 2 things that I was like, that could have been better. The rest of it, I was like, this is immaculate.
Yeah.
Immaculate.
No, they did a fantastic job, seriously. And, and I'll be honest, from a Marine standpoint, how Marines are, they're going to, they look at it and they nitpick everything. I'll be honest. I told myself before I went out, I was like, I'm just going to enjoy it.
Good.
And I sat down and I just enjoyed it. And I wasn't trying to pick out those things. I wasn't trying to do that type of stuff. And I think the way you guys started it out, everybody there kind of went into that kind of thinking.
Yeah.
Which was fantastic. But you guys did great. All the Marines did.
My hope was simple. It was to do 2 things. Celebrate our Corps' legacy, our history, I should say, the legacy it created, and create an optimism for where we're going.
Yeah.
So celebrate. And that's why the show at the beginning was what it was.
Yeah.
And then honor. The Brigadier General said it well, but honoring our traditions through the ceremony, which what I told my Marines was the pre-ceremonies are most fun.
Yeah.
But the ceremony is the most important. And so if you can celebrate and honor together, then you get the whole picture of who we are. And I got to get over it because we got a lot of work coming up.
Well, enjoy it for a week, and then
I don't know if I have a week. That's my problem. By this Thursday, we got to start finalizing some music lineups and get some writing going. We got a lot in front of us. I'm still like, great ball, so we'll see. I'm sure we'll figure it out when the anxiety meter kicks in and we got
True. Well, hey, let's kind of talk a little bit. I'll transition a little bit to you wrote a book.
Yeah.
So talk to me kind of a little bit about the book and like what gave you the idea. Talk a little bit about what's in the book, and just kind of let everybody know about that.
Yeah. So first and foremost, like I think throughout my life, and I think most people, not most, some people will say to themselves, like, maybe one day, I'll write a book. Like we'll throw that out there because we do have ideas. We're creative creatures, right? And I've said that to myself throughout the years, but I have never really given it, heavy consideration.
Yeah.
While I was at Paris Island, I met a man, Marine, awesome man and great friend of mine now. His name is Zachary Green. He wrote a book called Warrior Entrepreneur. And he wrote the book based off of his experiences. He was a Marine infantryman, and then he got out of the Marine Corps, became a firefighter, a life full of service, discovered a problem that basically kills firefighters, which is essentially when you're in a smoked out building on fire, you can't see.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to exit those buildings, but you have no visibility.
Yeah.
And you get disconnected from the other firefighters, which means you don't have a way to discern a route.
Yeah.
And so, long story short, he invented a material that glows that you can literally stick onto your clothing or whatever. This technology has been implemented in exit signs for stores all over the world.
Yeah.
He turned it into a multi-million-dollar business essentially out of the trunk of his actual car. He took out a loan on everything he had. He went to Las Vegas to a firefighters convention, and his booth display was trash bags, so he can black out light, and then you walk into the trash bags, and then he shows you what this stuff can do in dark. So he had like the lowest tech booth.
Yeah.
But he sold so many of these items that he literally had to take out a loan on his everything, home, cards, just to meet the shipping orders.
Oh, wow.
Like he couldn't fulfill the orders, so he had to get loans to just deliver the services. And from there, it exploded. Fire departments overseas, everything. So Zachary, I meet Zach down at PI. He lives in Hilton Head. And he says, hey, I want to do a ceremony for Vietnam veterans. He owns a facility down there. I'm blanking on the name. I feel terrible. I wish I could share it with everybody. It's Patriot, something of Patriot. But he has this facility for veterans, free for all veterans. You can literally sleep there in houses, shooting ranges, archery, all free. And it's all for veterans and to really help people kind of recover from traumas and all this stuff. Amazing place, huge acreage, massive. And he runs this nonprofit. He says, I want to host this event, but I have no clue how to implement a Marine band to this. I said, that's not a problem. What I can do is put together some sequences of events and some options that are all flexible. And then you can decide what's best, and we can maybe sit down and I'll walk you through it. He goes, great, let's have lunch. I'll I'd like to do that. So we go out in town and we have lunch. I tell him everything. And you know what happens when Marines get together?
Yeah.
This.
Right. Yeah.
We start sharing stories. So he tells a story, I tell a story. And eventually we got to wrap it up. We got to get back to work, all this stuff. He goes, listen, man, you got a lot of really incredible stories. You really should consider writing your book. And I'm like, oh, and he's like, hey, that kind of made almost like a poke in the chest.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But I didn't even recognize it in the moment. I'm leaving the restaurant, I'm driving home, and I'm like, write a book. Yeah, right, And then I'm like, I think this guy just poked me in the chest.
Yeah.
I think he just challenged me, and again, my nature is like, you don't challenge me and I don't step up to the plate.
Right.
So I got home and I was like, what would I write about? I open my computer and I write the first story that comes to mind. And it was literally my first memory of being a brand new Marine musician in Hawaii. What was one of my earliest memories? They flew in Tony Maiello, one of my favorite people on earth. He's a famous conductor, and I got an amazing experience with him on the podium.
Mhm.
So I wrote about it. Off the top of my head, I didn't plan it or nothing. And when I finished, I said, I wonder how many words I have. And I checked the word count. It was over 3,000 words.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, Google, what's the average word count for a paragraph in a book?
Hmm.
And it said between 3,000 and 7,000.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just wrote like almost as much as a chapter.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, cool. Okay. Close the book or close the computer and never thought about it again.
Mhm.
About a month later, a couple weeks later, I don't know, Zach Green texts me out of the blue
Hmm.
with a link to a program at Georgetown University.
Hmm.
And it was the program that he went through to begin the process of writing his book. And he goes, Mark, I meant what I said. You really should consider this. So I open the link, I read through it, $1,000. And at the time, my wife and I were going through fertility treatment stuff, which is super expensive. And I'm like, man, I can't afford this. $1,000, a lot. I talked to my wife. I'm like, look, this is what Zach was telling me about, blah, blah. And my wife, I can't wait for you to like sit down and just get to know her tomorrow. But she literally goes, Mark, you need to do this.
Yeah.
You know, we're in the midst of trying to have a baby. We got to raise $30,000.
Hmm.
And she's like, you need to do this.
Right.
She believes so much in me. And every man who watches this should know this. If you have a wife who believes in you like more than you believe in yourself,
Hmm.
you're going to climb Everest. You're going to be on the first rocket to Mars. You know, like there's
Right.
nothing you can't do when your wife supports you like that. And I looked at her kind of shocked, and it's like, really? Like, I don't know if we can afford it. And she's like, Mark, we'll figure it out, you know? And I'm like, man, now this is real. Like the boot camp thing, you know, now this is real. I passed the audition. So I call the professor for the program. I do a 10-minute call with him. He leaves me super motivated.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I'm going to do this. I paid the fee, start the 13-week process to go through this course.
Yeah.
At the end of the program, you have your first manuscript,
Mhm.
which is not close to a book. It's like, it's like you might as well write on paper towels. You know what I mean? It's like not good, but it's a beginning.
Mhm.
It's a starting point, a framework. From there, they sent my manuscript to a publisher.
Mhm.
The publisher gets to decide, do we want to greenlight this manuscript to become a book?
Right.
Which not all manuscripts do. And I received an email basically from the publisher that said, we want to greenlight your book.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, shoot. And I didn't even know how much of a time investment I was actually walking into, you know, because I had just spent 13 weeks doing a manuscript.
Yeah.
But that was just like step one.
Yeah.
Now I was about to spend 10 to 12 hours a week outside of work doing work.
Yeah.
And that happened for months
Mhm.
until I think I published in March, April timeframe.
Mhm.
I published the ebook in about March or April of 2022. And then I published the actual softcover book in like a month and a half or two later.
Yeah.
Sold about 400 copies in its initial launch. All of the profits to my book are dedicated to a cancer charity. You know, you're an ambassador for the you mentioned Valhalla.
Till Valhalla. Project, yeah.
I'm an official ambassador for Tap Cancer Out, which is the charity that I work with. In fact, I have a fundraiser going right now that runs until December. I'm trying to raise $10,000. My uncle in-law is currently going through chemo. We're waiting on hopeful good news. He has a big appointment coming up in a week to find out if it's receding or if we're still in the same place or if it's increased. So we're praying about that. But all the profits to my book go to Tap Cancer Out. And I think to date, not just with the book, other fundraising efforts, I've been able to raise close to 30 grand over the past few years, 3 years or so.
Yeah.
And my lifetime goal is $1 million raised. So, you know, that's what it's about, or that's what kind of started the whole concept of the book itself. And
then the book itself, talk a little bit kind of what it's about, what do you got in it, and that way in case somebody wants to get the book or what have you. So
the book is called You Won't Get It Until You Get It. A guide to understanding it factor and how you can have it too. So as the title kind of expresses, the book is discussing this idea of it factor. Some people call it it factor. Some people call it, like you've got something special about you. This kind of intangible quality that when you meet someone, you walk away with an impression like they're special. There's something about that person, right? And I had heard, I think when you're writing a book and you're discussing something thought-provoking, you have to have a problem that you're solving. If you don't have a problem, you don't really have something to talk about, in my opinion. So my problem was I had heard this phrase throughout my life that you either have it or you don't. You're either born with it or you're not. And I honestly, if I'm being real, I believed that was the case. Throughout my whole life, I was like, I feel like God has given me a gift that I just have this it factor. And I was just born that way. And that's just how it is. I didn't have anything to do with that. Through the process of this program and writing the book, I kind of discovered that was false. I discovered it via a means of sort of unraveling conversations of the topic. And so I started asking, what is it factor? You got to have questions to dig into.
Right.
But what is it factor? Why are some people born with it and not? Is that true? And what I discovered is that it factor is not one thing. It is tangible, in my opinion. I think that this idea that it factor is not a tangible thing is what we really need to be talking about, which was my effort in the book, is to break it down into tangible factors that anybody can self-evaluate and say, where do I fall with my communication it factor, for example? Appearance is an it factor to me. If you walked to a pool party in a suit, people are going to be like, what the hell's wrong with you? Right? So you're not matching the occasion. So there's a perception of you. That perception opens the door for what? Communications, conversations, influence. So all of these things matter to me. So the way you look matters is literally the title of one of the chapters. Communication is an it factor. Confidence is an it factor. How do you get confidence? Where does that come from? Why are some people so much more confident than others? Is it arrogance? Maybe. But what about real confidence? Because arrogance and confidence are two separate things.
Absolutely.
Humility. I think that's an it factor. I mentioned I came to my faith in Christ when I was at Miramar with Navarro. His humility. He is one of the most talented people I have ever, of any type of talent. I don't know that I've met many people more talented than him. He can hear something and instantly play it without any, issues. His humility drew me in. It made me go, what the heck is it about this guy? And when I found out that it was actually his faith in Christ that made him humble, that's when I went, what is this? So that was his it factor to me, was his humility. Which stemmed from his other it factor, in my opinion, which is his faith. And I think faith is an it factor. So there's 13 different it factors. The point of the book is that everybody deserves an opportunity to first self-assess. Know yourself, seek self-improvement. Self-assess. Where do I stand in each one of these it factors? At the end of every chapter, there's a self-assessment that the person gets guided by me on a scale of 1 to 10. Where do you feel you fall on this question, on this question? And then there's some questions that you have to fully form sentences of your thought process. And you're supposed to do all of this in pencil, because when you finish the book, that's when you get started. So you finish the book and now you've self-assessed everything. You've kind of put a bow on the cumulative holistic aspect of it factor. And then you can go back and say, all right, which one of these do I really want to focus on so that other people can see it in me? Because everybody has gifts. The problem is that we don't know what those are sometimes, and we don't know how to project them. So then others don't see that. And then we think we were just born without. And that's not the case. So that was the purpose of the book. That's kind of the context of it. And again, I think the most important thing for me is I don't expect to be a New York Times bestseller unless I have the capital to invest in promoting the book that way. It takes a lot of money to do that. But I do think that every single person that I have had the opportunity to get feedback from, which has been hundreds of, if not 1,000, plus people, all of them who have read through the book, at least chapters, has told me that it was incredibly impactful, that it gave them very thought-provoking questions to self-assess where they were. And these are people in various age ranges. I think this is as valuable to that young teen as it is to that 50, 60 something year old executive who has pretty much done it all and maybe needs a boost in like their thinking, in maybe where am I today and where do I want to be? Right. So all of those things, but I'm really proud of it. I don't think that the book has seen its life cycle. Traditional life cycle is like a 2-year life cycle. I'm about that at that point, but I haven't pushed it out and I haven't promoted it. And so I might republish it at some point later down the line when I retire and I can really invest in doing some public speaking tours and see where it kind of goes. I'm definitely interested in writing again. I have some topics that are very near and dear to my heart that I think we need to have discussions on as a community, as a country. So, yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. And I read through the book. I actually read the whole book. It's fantastic. I really enjoyed reading it. So, yeah, thanks for writing it.
Yeah.
So make sure, listeners, go get the book. It's a really good book. Say the whole title because it's a long title.
So the title itself is You Won't Get It Until You Get It. And if you Google search that, it'll shoot you straight to Amazon. The subtitle, A Guide to Understanding It Factor and How You Can Have It Too. So that's the subtitle.
Very nice. I'll put a link in the comments or whatever, or at least what it is so somebody can find it.
Totally.
But yeah, hey man, it's been great catching up, listening to your story. I love listening to people's story because I always learn something new if I already know you. So it's been exciting for me. Is there anything you want to leave everybody with as we close this out?
Probably should have thought about that before I sat down with you, huh?
That's okay.
I would say I'll leave everybody with this. The world is a crazy place right now, and it always has been a crazy place. But I think the Bible talks about as we get closer and closer to the end time, we hear about wars and rumors of wars, and there's going to be disasters and all of these things. I just want to encourage everybody to find peace. You're not going to find peace in man, and you're not going to find it in our government leaders, or anything of that nature. To me, and again, I know that not everybody believes what I believe, but when you can find peace and truth, the rest of this stuff, it won't phase you the way it phases a lot of people. I'm assuming we have a lot of veterans that are listening to this.
There are. Well, hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, we talk about spiritual fitness, and I think, start asking the questions that maybe you don't want to ask. Even if you feel like you don't have an answer right now, seek those answers. Who is God? What happens when I die? These are the same old questions that men and women long before us have been asking.
Right.
Some people, I believe, have found the answer to that, but others find themselves continuing to find themselves in a cycle of the world is constantly on us and pounding on us, and what's the next thing to be frustrated about? The only way to find peace is to find truth, and I believe that Christ is the truth, and I want to encourage everybody to seek Him. And even if you don't believe in Him, I dare you to disprove Him, and maybe you might find something you didn't expect. So yeah, those are my
very good. I like it. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on and doing this. You're doing great things. I know you're going to continue to do great things. I'd say it's unfortunate that you're going to retire in a couple of years for the Ock Field, but I know for you, your family, and what you have going on, it's the right time. I think we all know when that time is as you approach it. So, but you're doing great things. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Hey,
love you, bro.
Absolutely, man. To all the listeners out there, if you're struggling, need help, anything like that, don't forget the VA does have some great resources. You can always dial 988, press option 1. You can text 838-255, or you can go to veteranscrisisline.net and click on that chat icon. Any of those options are going to get you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But remember, one veteran life loss is one too many. I care about you. Mark cares about you. The whole veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. And if you're out there, you're not struggling, you're doing great, well, reach out to the buddies that you served with, ask them how they're doing. And if they need a helping hand, please reach out and do what you can for them. with that, one last time, thanks, man. Appreciate it. To all the listeners, stay motivated, change your socks.
Semper Fi.